Welcome to Mastery Fractional CFO's Punchy podcast, where we interview business owners from all walks of life and ask them about their business. I'm your host, Ryan Chenier. I'm the owner and CEO of Mastery Fractional CFO Services. Today, I've got with me David Peters. David is the founder and CEO of ConstructionClock. Dave, tell us about your business. Tell us about who you are and what you do and what your business does.
Thank you, Ryan, for having me on your podcast today. I'm excited to be here. I spent the last 17 years of my life running a small construction company based out of Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And we were a small team of 10 to 12 people. And we renovated cottages in northwestern Ontario and southern Manitoba. After doing that for such a long period of time, I had found a lot of pain points that I had as a contractor. And when I kind of reached my mid-30s, I decided it was time for me to kind of transition into a new career, something that was a little more scalable and a little more a little easier on the back, let's say. So I started ConstructionClock 2 years ago with the vision and the goal of building a time tracking app that you never have to use. And basically what that means is we spent the first year building an app that was kind of held together by duct tape. But the goal of the app was that contractors could set up geolocations around their job sites, and then they would never ever have to pull out their phone to track their time on those job sites. So when they walked onto the site, it would clock them in. When they left, it clocked them out. It would track all their travel time between sites, and then they would add all of their supply houses, different lumber yards, things like that, and it would track all their time and allocate that back to a project. So that was the vision, that was the goal. 2 years later, we have built that out. We have an incredibly robust mobile and web app now, works exactly as we envisioned it would. And we have about 550 companies across the world that use it now with their construction teams. We're an early company that has a lot of passion for the construction industry, and we feel like we're now becoming a market leader when it comes to construction time tracking.
Okay. So your market, you're servicing businesses all across the planet.
Yeah, we're in 7 countries right now, primarily Canada, US, United Kingdoms, Australia, New Zealand, areas like that. So most of the English-speaking countries, and then we are kind of moving into Latin America and more Spanish-speaking countries next.
Okay, that's fantastic. So let me ask you, David, when you're looking at your product and the solution that it provides for different companies, how would somebody know that your product is the right one for them and not maybe one of the other products that's out there?
Yeah, so when you look at construction time tracking or just time tracking in general, there's thousands of apps out there, and they all do primarily the same thing, which is it requires you to take out your phone, open up the app, open up whatever project you work on, and then manually clock in. And I think the key differentiator is if somebody's looking for an app like ours, it's because they're kind of tired of the administrative work revolving around that, employees forgetting to clock in and out, having to go in and edit times all the time, and then the verifying that the hours on those specific sites are accurate. And GPS locations can do some of that. But somebody will use our app if they want to completely eliminate time tracking from their day-to-day process altogether. And we really pride ourselves on that. So I think if you are a company that has struggled with managing everyone's time on your team and you're a scaling company, we're a really good option for you at this time.
So it streamlines the processes, it's efficient, it's automated. What about with respect to reporting? I think you had mentioned that part of what you're trying to do there is help with respect to project costing and that sort of thing. Did I read that right? Yeah.
Yeah. So because we track everyone's time on site, we know exactly how many hours and how much labor cost has been allocated to that specific project. So you can set up the amount of budgeted time that you have on that project. And then after that project is done or during that project, you can run a report at any time, basically breaking down exactly where you're at on that project. And it's all in real time, and it's 100% accurate. And so the reporting has become a really great tool for our customers. The payroll is kind of a standard, and that is required, but the reporting of project costs is a massive benefit to our customers.
For sure. Absolutely. And how does your software integrate with, say, accounting platforms and things like that? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we integrated with QuickBooks to start. QuickBooks Online was our first integration, and that's for our customer base, small and medium sized construction companies, that's primarily what they use. And so we integrated into them. And then now we're looking at doing integrations into Sage and Xero and a couple of the other major accounting softwares to run payroll.
Okay. Very interesting. So yeah, no, that's excellent. And it gets me thinking there's probably different applications for transportation business and whatnot, but it sounds like you're really focused on construction industry. Is that correct? Or what are your thoughts regarding that?
Yeah, we called ourselves ConstructionClock. It's the industry that I kind of have lived in for the last 15 to 20 years. And as I'm looking at the number of companies that are coming in, about 10 to 20% of them are non-construction related companies. We have, security companies and farms, agriculture, real estate, like people that are managing and doing maintenance on rental properties. So what we're realizing is that there's a definite use case outside of construction. Construction was definitely our Trojan horse where we wanted to prove that this worked really well within one industry. We're looking at expanding out, and we are definitely wanting to be in other industries outside of construction now.
If you were to paint a picture for me of what your vision is for the company, say maybe 1 year from now, 5 years from now, what would you say about that?
So we have a couple thousand people on the platform right now, and our vision for it is scaling. We're at a point now where we built the product. We want to be worldwide. We want to be in a year from now, we plan on having around 1,500 companies on the platform. 5 years from now, it'll look between like 10 or 20,000 companies that are on the platform. And we will have deep integrations into most every accounting and ERP system out there 5 years from now. So we have a team based here in Winnipeg of extremely passionate product and development and marketing staff who are really just every day looking at how do we get this out to more people. And we challenge ourselves on that on a daily basis.
All right. Well, best wishes with respect to that. What else would you like the people out there to know about ConstructionClock, who you serve, what you do, how why they might be able to, or why they might consider looking you up and considering you as an option for them?
I think when I built ConstructionClock, it was a little bit like looking at what this could be 10 years from now. And I was kind of looking at like, what's going to be the future of the way people track their time. And in my mind, we were building something that was going to be the standard a decade from now, instead of, what everybody's doing right now. And I think the biggest thing for us is we want to constantly innovate what this looks like. And so if you are somebody that wants to reduce the amount of things on your task list each day, and as business owners, we're constantly looking at doing that, we're definitely a software that can help you do that. On the flip side, we use location tracking to do that. And so for a construction company, they need to be really comfortable with the fact that, hey, during working hours, we track the location of phones so that we can clock people in and out. And so these are the things that we tell people when they come onto our platform is we will take things off your plate. And the cost is that we track the device, location of the device based on where projects are. And everyone has their own comfort level around that. But if you want to reduce your workload on the admin side, we are definitely a great option for that.
That's fantastic. Okay, well, David, one of the things I give every guest on our show the opportunity to do is ask a fractional CFO any question. And so by all means, go ahead, ask me any question, preferably business related, but I'll leave that up to you if I can address it. If it's business related, I can. If it's not, we'll see.
Yeah, I think when I was shifting from my construction business to call it a tech company, I was confused at what I assumed that a CFO was the same thing as an accountant. And I would like you to kind of differentiate the difference between what an accountant would do for a business owner versus what a CFO will do for a business owner, and how you differ from an accountant side.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, there's many different interpretations of what an accountant is. I think that when it's a small to mid-sized business, people are often thinking an accountant is the person who files my taxes, or maybe it's the person who does my bookkeeping, or maybe it's the person I've hired to do my bookkeeping and to kind of look after things on the accounting and finance side. But an accountant can be so much more. In a larger business, the idea of having a chief financial officer or a CFO in place is, well, that's an integral position for a larger business. And small to mid-sized companies are often late with respect to bringing in somebody who's got executive level expertise and experience, somebody who's got the different tools that a CFO uses to help a company really understand month to month what's going on in their business, helping
Yeah.
helping them to understand and interpret the financial statements, what they mean, what the trends are, what the baselines are, how that information can be used to make better business decisions that take into account the impact that different decisions can have on the financial statements. And once that's understood properly and somebody's using that information and consolidating that information and analyzing it, it becomes relatively easy, in fact, to intentionally create better financial results in the business just by understanding that every decision can impact and does impact the financial. I should say most business decisions of any significant nature can and will impact the financial statement. So for any CEO or business owner or any group of stakeholders in a business that are making those high level decisions, you really want to understand how that financial component aligns with the operations side of the business and the sales and marketing side of the business, so that you have a strong business and you're making decisions based off of a 360-degree view of everything that matters in the business. And a fractional CFO, that's what they are. Whether you call them an accountant or not, that's what they do. But it's an important role on a month-to-month basis. Yes, you need a bookkeeper to look after the bookkeeping and the record keeping. And yes, you need somebody to file your taxes. The fractional CFO can sometimes do that. Oftentimes they're focusing on something else. They're focusing on what's often referred to as management accounting, but at the executive level. They're not necessarily always crunching every single number, although depending on who's in place, they can, but they are making sure that those numbers are available for the leadership team to make the right decisions and to really understand, if we hire somebody, who should we hire? When should we hire them? How might that impact the financial statements 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 2 years from now? How do we invest our time, our resources? There's a lot of different things that come into play. It's not just about cutting expenses or filing taxes or doing bookkeeping. There's a lot more. The decisions that you make on the financial side on the sales side and the operations side are going to be tied in very closely to the success of the business. And that's going to be measured on all fronts, including the financial and accounting side. Okay. So, does that answer your question, David?
Yeah, it does. I think if I can ask a follow-up question, I guess, like, as a small business owner, and like, I think a lot of, I heard that like 95% of Canadians businesses are small business. I, I, I would love to know, like, at what stage do I start looking at working with a fractional CFO versus when it becomes beneficial to me, and what I should look for, like, as a cost perspective. Because I think when I was starting this, I was really worried about incurring costs, because when you're starting a new business, you're spending money and you're kind of trying to gauge the return on investment in all the different areas. So what stage should I get a fractional CFO, and then what should I be? What's a good budget for me to put together for paying somebody?
Well, it's a good question. And there's different kinds of timelines and situations for different kinds of businesses. If you're a business that's going to be bringing on a lot of investors and you're raising funds in the very beginning before you even get operations rolling, that I would say requires a special kind of fractional CFO. That's not what we do. But if you're a business that's growing relatively organically and you're at the point where you're realizing that spreadsheets aren't quite cutting it and you don't have the time to be managing those, and maybe your record keeping is being done, but it's not being done correctly. You can tell because either the data just isn't making sense or you're struggling trying to manage whatever's going on the bookkeeping side of things. Those are some really good indicators that you should have somebody come in there to begin helping you out. Because a fractional CFO, what we do is we come into a business and immediately look at the processes and systems on the financial and accounting side, and we streamline those. And there's a lot of low-hanging fruit typically that we can begin to identify in terms of making improvements. And from there, we can get into financial planning and analysis and really looking at how do you optimize your profitability, how do you maximize your cash flows, and how are you going to hit the different targets that you've got. Different companies want to grow at different rates, and so you need to put together different plans and strategies to try to hit different growth targets. And whatever's right for one company might not be right for the other company. But putting together that plan, that strategy, understanding how it's going to impact the financials, and then executing upon that strategy. That's a big component of what a fractional CFO can do. It's a big component of what we do. It's not just a matter of planning and budgeting and forecasting. It's a matter of following through and making sure strategies are executed, and making sure that adjustments are being made along the way when the plan versus the actual don't match 100%. And so there's all sorts of different times when that might suit your business. I would say that generally speaking, if you feel like there is If you're not 100% clear on what's going on financially month to month, it's time to begin speaking with a fractional CFO. Have an initial consultation. I'm sure it'll be free. We offer free initial consultations. Talk about your specific business. The way we price our services depends on the different levels of needs that different businesses have. Some of our smaller clients, they may be under $1 million in annual revenue, but they're planning on growing quickly or scaling quickly. I think the sweet spot is between maybe $3 and $5 million, all the way up to $20 and $30 million. In that range, if you don't have in your budget enough for a full-time on-staff chief financial officer, a fractional CFO is going to be a no-brainer from a return on investment point of view, time, money, and otherwise.
Yeah. I think those are the two big questions I had for you. I find that, like, from my perspective, we've always focused on like getting a really good lawyer and making sure that the corporation is set up. But then oftentimes then the financial side kind of takes a back seat because you're busy like trying to run and grow the business, and a CFO coming in early on would have been more beneficial for us had we jumped on it and started talking to people like you early on versus just kind of like pushing it off and dealing with it at the end of the year when we could have made better decisions if we had had that data in front of us.
Yeah. It's great to be proactive. Not always easy to do. It's not always in the cards, but the sooner that a company can do that, the better. David, last question for you. If somebody wants to get a hold of you or your company, what do you recommend? What's the best way for them to go about doing that?
To get a hold of me, usually people reach out to me on my LinkedIn. I'm just David Peters on LinkedIn, and if you want to check out our platform, our app, it's just check out ConstructionClock.com. And there's a free 14-day free trial for any company that's interested in doing that. Okay. And so there's no risk to trying it. We really encourage everybody to give it a try. And if you want to reach out to me and ask me questions about what I've built and how I've built it, I'm happy to connect with any of your viewers.
Excellent. David, thank you for joining us on the show today. It's been awesome. I wish you all the best with your business. And if there's something we can do to help you out at some point in the future, don't hesitate to reach out to us. I'm sure we'll be talking more.
Thank you, Ryan. Thanks for having me on.
Take care.